Welcome, one and all, to the Cosmic Comic Nation, powered by Comic Con Radio. I'm your host, Cian Tormey, and today's guest was born in Dublin, currently resides in Spain, and he's like family to me. In fact, actually, if we check the genealogy, he actually might be family to me. He's a superstar artist who's worked for both Marvel and DC. His current run, along with superstar writer Tom Taylor on Superman, Son of Kal-El, wrapped with issue 18. And his new book from DC Comics, Lazarus Planet, Revenge of the Gods, #1, dropped in March. Please welcome to the show, Cian Tormey. Thank you very much for being here, Cian.
Tom, thank you. It's a pleasure. And as you said, it's a pleasure to speak to another Tormey. It doesn't happen very often.
That's right. We're so few and far between. It's good. It's good to meet a Tormey and see the name outside of the police blotter. So that's pretty good. That fills me with hope and pride.
When you reached out to me, I was like, "Oh my God, what have I done?" I was like, "Oh no, it's okay, it's okay."
I don't have incriminating pictures. I don't have. I'm not blackmailing you. Nope. It was just I was very happy because my son. Your middle name is James, correct?
Yes.
And my son's name is James, so I was very happy. I'm like, look, James. There's a Cian James Tormey, and
Wow.
he's got his name on a cover of a comic book, and he's not wanted for any crimes that I know of.
Yet.
That I know.
Yeah, no. The James is the English version of Seamus, which was my grandfather's name. So wow. Your son is he's got a great name.
Oh yes. I'll be sure to tell him that. It'll mean a lot coming from you. My oldest brother, as I mentioned to you before we started taping, he's obsessed with the Tormey genealogy, and so he'll be very happy to hear this, that we're speaking and we're on good terms. So that's good.
Yeah, no, and as I said, which is fantastic, but I am living in hiding to get away from the rest of the Tormey. So the fact that you tracked me down is problematic.
I'll hide the geolocation so they can't find.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'll blur it out
into the skiff.
I'll just put we're currently residing in, and then it'll just be a long bleep.
Yeah, beep.
Yeah, right. So no, it doesn't. But you are such an amazing artist, and it was so cool. And I do remember that feeling just a while back, picking up a comic book. And I'll be honest with you, the Superman, Son of Kal-El. I do tend to skew more DC, although I do like to dabble in everything. And to see the Tormey name on it, and show it to my son, who was a huge Nightwing fan. So Nightwing, Superman, Son of Kal-El, very adjacent to each other. So he was really excited to see it. But you weren't always in the comic book industry. You weren't always this rock star, penciler, inker, artist that you are now. You were in the ad industry for about 11 years. What made you transition from being an art director in the ad industry into the comic book industry?
Well, thank you. You're too kind, first of all. But I many years ago when I had finished college, I moved to Spain the first time. It was about maybe 10, 11 years ago. No, actually, when I first moved, it was about 15 years ago now. With the idea ostensibly of finishing my illustration portfolio, because I thought I'll apply to Marvel, and just, again, the naivety of I'll apply and then I'll probably get it, and then the future is all set, which
nice. Yes.
Yeah, you're disabused of that pretty quickly.
Well, you're extremely talented, so I would imagine that would be.
I wasn't back then, but I kind of got over to Spain and just didn't do anything, because just, again, I think I was kind of undisciplined, back when I was 23, 24. So in the end of just kind of tending bars and not really doing anything, I moved back to Ireland. And the first job that I got was an intern in an ad agency around the time of this big international competition. And I entered the competition and then won the Irish part and then won the international part, and then immediately had a career. And so spent about 11 years, around 10 or 11 years, working as an art director up to senior art director, and worked on some really cool campaigns and stuff. And it was a great job. The career changed quite a lot by the time I finished it. It's gone a little bit less creative and a bit more marketing now, just because everything's data driven. But the whole way through that, the idea of working in comics never went away. And I kind of glanced off it once or twice. There was a comic convention in Dublin a few years ago where I presented some work to C.B. Cebulski and got a chance to send him stuff. and then kind of screwed that up. And then, you know, just like there was all of these kind of touch points where it just never quite worked. And I realized at some point I was either going to have to stop, or I was going to have to stop assuming that I was just going to one and done it, like just kind of meet someone and then just get a job at Marvel. So it took probably, I think altogether, about four of the last years of my career working pretty much 2 jobs, trying to do the art direction, but also do the comic stuff on the side. Until I had built up enough. I think for the last 2 years, I was doing lots of 10-page stories for Marvel and for DC until they offered me my first issue. And that was at a point where there's no way you could handle 22 pages and your regular job. So I had to take the plunge, and it's been going up ever since. It's been amazing.
That really is. And to go to right from one industry to really the top of another is a remarkable, and it's a testament to the quality of the art that you're producing. Are there any particular skills that you are bringing from the industry that you picked up in your 11 years there that is translating well in the comic industry?
I honestly, all of them. Like when I started in advertising, as I just said, like I didn't study it or anything. I just kind of ended up doing well. And over the course of those years, it was like an incredibly steep learning curve about, you know, just how to organize images and how to approach like structuring storytelling and stuff like that. And I fell in love with screenwriting and all of those things, like in parallel with making ads. And as an art director, you're working on, like, you'd handle other illustrators, but you'd also work with photographers, directors, and things like that. So you'd be in the edit suite, and over time you started to become like quite visually aware. Like lots of that kind of thing is they're the skills that you lean on the most. So when I started started working more in comics, those skills have been developed, but they don't cross over. So a lot of the things that I would end up kind of leaning on then was just, I suppose, in the most one-to-one sense, like obviously framing and things like that. That's something I've always been interested in. Something you'd have to rely on if you were sketching stuff up for a photographer or if you're working with a director. So that kind of thing obviously helps a lot when you're doing all of your comic pages. But realistically, it probably comes mostly down to just an understanding of like the rhythm of a story, like how to break a story down and how to take a script page, because that's the way it comes to me. It comes like a movie script with the panels, and being able to look at that and kind of make decisions on what's the most pertinent panel to concentrate on, or like, as in, should I make that the biggest? And if so, do I orient all of the other panels around it? What is the best way to take the reader from the top left to the bottom right? Because fundamentally, like, being able to draw is, I mean, it's always lovely to see a comic that's nicely drawn, but comics are about storytelling. You know, you can have a really bad, you can have a bad artist who is an incredible comic artist because their storytelling is amazing, but you can also have people who are amazing at drawing and just their comics are just really hard to read. So, trying to fit somewhere in the middle is kind of, that's what I'm trying to do. So,
was there a transitional time where you're getting the script, you're sketching out the panels, and you're sending it in, and they're saying, no, let's work on this more? Has that lessened over time as
so that definitely happened more, like, to be honest, at like DC and Marvel levels. Like I can't really speak as much to this because I didn't spend as much time kind of coming up through other companies, which I probably should have done, but an awful lot like the situation I found myself in with advertising. Actually, to be honest, in terms of skills that would cross over, like figuring stuff out on the fly while also kind of trying to make it look like you know what you're doing, is like, maybe that's probably one of the skills that I brought over the most. But yeah, no, like, I got more notes early on, but realistically now, I think the editors that you work with, they've hired you for a reason, or in my case, somebody like Tom asked for me on the book, and I've improved an awful lot since, but they tend to rely on you to do your end of the job properly because they're busy, you know. So they don't tend to step in unless I've made like a massive error, but they trust me at this point. So
that's good. And sometimes a lot of people will tell you that they'll stand off from the major companies because they want that artistic liberty. They don't want 1,000 notes. They don't want the shackles and the handcuffs of, oh no, you can't have them doing this. Have you experienced anything along that lines? Getting notes saying, oh, this is not what Superman does. This is not what Batman.
No, I think No, that certainly hasn't happened to me. If I get any notes these days, it is always like, Cian, you forgot to draw the S on his chest, or you haven't put the W on. Like I seem to have logo blindness. Like that is like my editors always are just, oh yeah, like so you draw the whole characters, and the most precise thing you have to do is get the logos right, because that's not about artistic interpretation. You have to get those right. So they're the last thing that you do. And when you've worked like 12, 13 hours and then you upload the page, you just didn't do it. You don't see it anymore because you've been like working on it for so long. So like, I'm sure I've made people cry just because I just can't seem to do it. But no, in terms of like feedback and notes, there is a thing that there's a thing I think you have to have, which is like not to sound too kind of lofty or anything, but you kind of have to have an empathetic understanding of the character. Like you have to know quintessentially why. Or like if you draw Batman, he shouldn't look the same as Wolverine. Like they should have a different feeling and stuff like that. So if you don't have that, I'm sure you might get notes, but like, you know, because maybe you're not making them behave a certain way. But like there is an aspect of this where you kind of have to understand the quiddity of the character themselves. And therefore, if you're getting that many notes, maybe you're just not the right fit, you know?
Maybe not the right fit for that character. Absolutely.
Yeah. Right. And that can happen. Like, look, I have an unofficial theory, and obviously people will come out of the woodwork and give me loads of examples of why this is wrong. But broadly speaking, I think you're either a Batman artist or a Spider-Man artist. Like, just in terms of your sensibility, very few artists can do both. And I think it just comes down to you seem to be kind of aligned one way or the other. I mean, obviously there are artists that can do both, but it's really funny when you see an incredible Spider-Man artist. Sometimes you see something that they've done with Batman in it, and it just doesn't feel right sometimes.
Yeah. I think I could actually imagine some books, and I'm not sure if this is the line between the artist that you're alluding to, but Spider-Man requires this kind of fluidity in the drawing, whereas Batman has that kind of more stoic stance, and you can always
you have to put so much movement into absolutely no movement with somebody like Batman, and then with somebody like Spider-Man, it's just, if you have any of the solidity in a character like that, it just doesn't work. So it's a broad point. I use those characters just to illustrate the point, but I think there's definitely, it's about like a sensibility, like an empathic way to understand what these characters do.
And you ended up actually being the first Irish artist ever to work on Superman.
Yeah.
When you envisioned yourself in the comic industry, when you were in those 11 years as an art director, but still had that comic industry in your mind, is that who you envisioned yourself working with, or was there other characters that you had sense interest in?
No, I never liked Superman.
Oh no,
I never read it.
What was about what about Superman kind of pushed you away? Because I could take a stab at it, but I would love to hear.
Yeah, so I didn't really read, like I read some of it when I was younger, obviously. Like I read Death of Superman and things like that when I was like 8 or 9 years old, because my dad had all of that stuff. But as I got older then, in my ignorance, one of the problems I had was with the concept of the character, that it was like, if you have a character that is inherently flawless, well then, I mean, like drama comes from flaws. Right. And so if you have a character that like is perfect all the time, then I failed to see, you know, like on paper what was interesting about the character. And also, to be honest, broadly speaking, I thought I would have been working in Marvel. I never thought I would have been working at DC, because I didn't really read much DC when I was growing up either. So I was like a Marvel kid through and through. And it's just, again, one of those weird kind of things that happens where you just kind of find yourself just slightly left of where you thought you were going to be. And one of the best things about working in DC is that almost every character to me it's new. Like I have no legacy problems with these characters, because whenever they say, oh, look, we're going to be using, what was the last one? Oh, the Ultra Humanite. And I was like, what? I was like, what is that? That sounds amazing.
He's the first supervillain in DC.
Was he really?
Yes, yeah. When he appeared in Superman, he's the first supervillain. He's the first villain that had superpowers.
You'd have to see. So, Tom, like when we start an issue, we have a shared folder for the whole team, that editorial was set up. And in my folders, there's always like one reference folder that is just absolutely huge because like I don't know any of the characters or what they're wearing or anything like that. So
continuity is great. Continuity is great, but sometimes it's okay to shed that baggage of it because it could also be a pair of handcuffs around your hands as you draw.
Well, think about it this way. If they asked me to draw the Ultra Humanite and I had never seen him before, you can imagine what that would have ended up looking like. So
that's great. I could see the hesitation but I think, and you've done a great job in capturing this, especially if anyone has picked up any of the Son of Kal-El books, you know that it really is less about the superpowers and more about that kind of internal conflict.
Well, I worked on Injustice Year Zero, right? And it was the first, it was the first time Jessica Chen, the editor, had put me on it with Tom. It was the first time I'd worked with Tom Taylor. And in it, there's a scene where Superman steps out of the shadows in like there's a hospital room that Alan Scott, the original Green Lantern, has been beaten up, and they don't know why. And Alan Scott's boyfriend, ultimately, they'd go on to find out that it was the Joker who had done it. But Superman introduces himself, and they have this whole conversation about what it's like from Superman's perspective to be in a relationship where you're always worried that you're letting your human partner down, and from Alan Scott's boyfriend's perspective of, always being worried that this superhero isn't going to come home. And between the two of them, they have this wonderful back and forth. And then Superman stands up and holds his hand out and just says, "My name's Clark." And it was just in these 3 pages, apart from the fact that I suddenly realized what makes Tom so amazing as a writer, but it also made me suddenly realize everything that I had completely misunderstood about Superman. Like, it's not, Superman isn't the point. Clark is the point.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And like, I feel naive saying it now, and having spent the last, just over like about a year and a half of my life working on Superman, but like his son, like, I'm so glad I got that. Otherwise, I never would have understood, and I wouldn't have been able to probably understand his son's perspective as much. But that suddenly was when it turned around for me, and I got it then.
I don't think you're wrong though in having that. As you said, you grew up with the Marvel, and from an outsider perspective, seeing Superman, where you can see that he's moving an entire solar system with his pinky.
Exactly.
Right. I could see that, but I think the situation you just described that we saw in Injustice, I think you have done a masterful job in your art, kind of detailing that along with Tom Taylor in Jonathan Kent, where he's becoming this person. He's becoming that Superman that you just described in Injustice is who Jonathan is becoming.
Yes.
And it's that kind of internal struggle that he's going with. How do I become that person? And that human aspect of this very alien entity is what makes him so appealing, I think. And you guys, you did, I mean, such an amazing book, and such an amazing understanding of the character.
Well, like, the thing is, he's trying to be his dad, and he's trying to be Superman at the same time, while also missing both of those things together, which is his experience of Clark and Superman as a father. Right. So he has to live up to 3 different things, and it's hard enough for the rest of us to live up to even one of those on its own. But like, so he's such an empathetic character, and he just always seems to have the weight of everything on top of him, and yet he just kind of keeps going, which is, I mean, that's the Superman presumably that you knew more than I did before I started this.
No, so, absolutely, carrying the weight, but still, of the world, but still planting his feet and pushing on. That series, Superman Son of Kal-El, I believe wrapped with issue 18, but it was issue 10 that set the world on fire when Jonathan's bisexuality became integral to the character, integral to the series, and just the whole world was talking about it. Did you expect that kind of reaction?
Well, so the thing is, I did and I didn't. And in fairness, one of the nice things about working with somebody like Tom is that you kind of get shielded from a lot of the abuse, because he's just so much more out in front of everybody than you are. I had in.
I mean, you really do mean that, because if correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there was talk of police protection.
Oh yeah. No, they had guys go. I think it was to the editor's house. They had like the police doing drive-bys to make sure that and that was it. So in issue 5 was when it was the first kiss, and John Timms had been drawing the series until I think issue 7, and that was when I took over. And then from that point on, so I had seen what was being leveled at the guys, like at the start of the series. And it was really, really just like, it was horrific because it got picked up obviously by Fox News, and it was all, it fitted into a culture war narrative, and the stuff that was being said about the series at the time wasn't true. Like, they've turned Superman gay, and of course, it's a much more nuanced thing than that of course we haven't. But I understand how easy it is to like take the archetype and just kind of say, look what they've done. So I had seen what was going on, and then of course there was a colorist on the series, and he had said that he was really happy to be on the series. And then he kind of, I think he had released the news that there was a kiss coming up and tried to tank the series, and it all got really kind of weird and messy. Yeah. So when Tom asked me would I do it, and I said, man, I'd love to. And he went, I'm not going to find out you're like a secret homophobe or something in the next like couple of weeks. And I was like, no, I don't think so. So, and it turns out I'm not. So everything went well in the end. Yeah. So, but yeah, just weirdly, like, I mean, I get it. I mean, if some people, I don't agree with their points of view, but if they cleave that closely to them, it's problematic, but okay. But I mean, the way they express it it's just pure awful bigotry. And I did get some of it, but most of it's aimed at Tom. What I actually received more on like Reddit and on Twitter was actually mostly people messaging me to say how much they wish that the character had been around when they were going through that, but how happy they were that they can read it now, and that it's there for people who are going through it themselves now. And that's what the book was for me. It was more about whatever the furore is over the artistic choices we're making in telling this story, they'll pass. And in the next like 15 years or 20 years, this book can be picked up by someone who's not in the middle of this kind of weird media storm, and they'll read it, and it could be the thing that deeply touches them the way the comics touched us when we were kids. So
I'd like to think that the rage died down quickly.
It did.
Which when it was misplaced, obviously the whole rage itself is misplaced because it makes for a nice headline. It makes it anger kind of attracts people to the news and all that. But hearing that there were people who were not enraged, but rather the character resonated with them, and like you said, became kind of an outlet for them to say, gosh, if Jonathan can do it, I can live this life.
Yeah. Oh no, honestly, Tom, that was 99.9% of the messages I received, and I received a lot of them, and it was so gratifying. But like from all over the world, like I was getting them from fans in Brazil and really as far away from me as you can get geographically, and I was receiving messages all the time, and it means so much. Certainly at a time now when representation is like, it's part of our everyday rhetoric, that to have this for a lot of people, it really seemed to be really important, and that was immensely gratifying to be part of that.
I think for a lot of people, that it really does solidify that importance of representation.
Yeah.
And listen, if you don't get it, that's cool.
Sure.
Don't pick up the book. There's a lot of other books out there for you that I'm sure you'll enjoy, but I'm sure there are a lot of people too that are going to be.
That was essentially my response to anybody who came to me on Twitter with a problem. It's like, well, just look, some books just aren't for you. Like, not every book is for everyone, and that's an important lesson for all of us to learn. Like, you don't have to like everything, so just don't read it.
And most certainly, you don't have to approve of it either.
Yeah, but if you read it, you might learn something. So
I mean, right. Absolutely. You don't need to. Little open mind never hurt anybody. Really.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. Could not agree more.
I've been working with middle school students for over 2 decades, and I can't tell you how important it is that books like Superman, Son of Kal-El that focus on representing a marginalized portion of the population that generally you're not seeing in mainstream media, you're not seeing in the books, and to handle it so well, and to see the scene with Jonathan and Lois, Jonathan and his mother, really was so heartfelt and was done so well. That embrace between the two of them felt so genuine, and it really is cool that young people get to look at a character like Jonathan Kent and look at a book like the one that you and Tom created, and really do get to connect with it. Well, I say young people, but it really doesn't. It's not.
Yeah, no, it is the full spectrum. But no, you're right. Like, and the thing is, Tom knows how to write these moments, but he'd also kind of just like leave it to me to kind of like do whatever felt right. And we would rarely have, like, that one in particular we worked on together quite a bit. Like, I'd sketch it out and just to get it right because it was so important. But I mean, it was the same with the scene where Clark comes back and they hug in the sky. I mean, that was another moment that seemed to just really just kind of upset so many people in the strangest way. But like, we had these core moments that were they were just so resonant, and it was wonderful to be part of that, in those pivotal moments for the character. Because like, John is so different now from where we started. Like, he's a different character. Right. But then, like, not to sound too kind of like, artistic about it, but like, so am I since then, from having worked on it. Like, it was really quite an experience.
And I do remember, I think, I remember even people critiquing the hug between Superman and, I should say Clark and Jonathan. And boy, I'm like, wow, God.
It was like, it was genuinely, I shouldn't laugh, but like, it was really funny. It was like, is it gay to hug your son? You're like, no, it's not. What's wrong with you people? I can't believe it.
Anytime I even saw that, I just kind of zoomed past it. Any critique of it, I should say.
It was very funny. Like, sorry, that's the other thing I should say, that quite often, yes, there was a lot of hate, but it manifested in some extremely funny stuff. Like, not funny to whoever was spewing it, but to read some of this stuff, because like, if you don't take any of it personally and you just read it clear, it's like, what is going on? Right. Like, it's just, some of it's crazy.
Fathers hugging their sons now? What's this world coming to?
Yeah. Like, what has the left done?
Social decline. Oh, I can't believe
it.
What's next?
So funny.
Father's going to be saying, I love you to their sons? Oh.
Gross.
I mean, and like you said, Jonathan himself, he went on a giant character arc, as did you. So I would imagine that Jonathan is probably going to hold a special place in your mind and in your heart.
Oh yeah, 100%.
As your career continues to grow. I know you worked on Nightwing as well, which is my son, my son James's favorite book, and cool. Now we have Nightwing really front and center in the DC universe.
Yeah.
Is that where you'd like to see Jonathan?
So the thing is, like, I was lined up to work in support of Bruno. So that was where I was going to be before Tom had said, do you think you'd be interested in taking on this project? I can't tell you what it is just yet, but would you be interested? And I was like, on the back of Injustice, and having worked on a couple of the Nightwing things with him as well, I was like, wherever you think I should go, I'll go with you, Right. So Nightwing for me was always special. Again, not a character that I remember too much beyond some of the tentpole Batman stories from when I was younger. But like the death of Batman, what's the one where he wears the mask of the Tenchu and he trains again? It's the one that introduces Azrael as Batman.
Nightfall?
Yes, Nightfall. So my introduction to Nightwing was in Nightfall. So that's where I knew him from. And obviously he's changed quite a lot. And Tom has a very specific take on a lot of where he wants these guys to go. So my reintroduction to Nightwing again was through Tom's work. And it still has the same kind of feeling that Jonathan Kent has, although it's just so much more, not parental is too strong a word, but just his relationship with Jonathan and trying to kind of be this sensei character is it's wonderful to see. Every time these guys touch off each other, actually, I'll tell you something. I don't know if you noticed this, but it's really funny. But in the entire run of Son of Superman, John never punched anybody, right? So the whole way through the comic, he doesn't lay a fist on a single person.
I don't think I noticed that.
Except for when Bruno drew the crossover issue and John punches one guy in the face. It's the only time it happened. And we were having dinner in Madrid last year. And we were sitting there going, oh, it never happened. And Bruno was like, I think I drew him doing that. So yeah, so in terms of like those guys in the same world, John, I don't know, he feels separate and apart even from like Nightwing's not a violent character. He's graceful and he uses
Right.
it when appropriate. But Jonathan still feels kind of a bit pure for the moment. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, they complement each other, but I still think probably better from a distance.
I could definitely see. I see your point, and I definitely. I'm glad characters like Nightwing are being pushed, and I hope
Yeah,
Jonathan
big time.
really gets to that level as well. I think, are they putting him in the electric suit? I think
Yeah, so the
yeah.
whole thing,
I guess
yeah, so one of the reasons why Son of Superman ended was because there was going to be this kind of reshuffle of everything. And that's why everybody has had like a new suit, new jackets, things like that.
yeah.
And that's why Clayton then took over because he had done a couple of the issues on our run, and
Was
then Clayton took over, and now Clayton Henry, yeah,
Clayton Henry. Sorry, I'm thinking. So.
yeah, yeah. So Clayton Henry. So he is going to then bring John forward into the Injustice universe. I think that's where the guys are going. So
yes, I saw that. Yeah, that's exciting. I mean, really,
yeah,
so
very
a lot of the work that you've put the time into, a lot of the books that you've been drawing are still really these characters, and now especially with Injustice now being kind of brought in, it's really it's exciting time.
It is exciting, yeah.
And you know what? And I'm sorry to say, I was again always more of a DC guy, so this is a cool time for us DC fans. You actually are an exclusive DC artist at this point, correct?
Yes. Yep. Yep. As
how
of this time last year, I think.
Oh yeah, so for about a year now, you've been a DC exclusive artist. How did that come about? If you don't mind me getting into the details of that, or asking about.
So no, not at all. No, I mean I can tell you from my perspective how I think it happened because there's an awful lot of like internecine stuff that we don't get to see. You know, like whatever the decision process is from all of the dark gods at the top of the ladder.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think it was just because between there had been some what was it? It was around the Nightwing annual. I was also drawing Darkhold at the same time. And then I had two Outsiders issues, and then I inherited the Superman stuff. And within the space of about maybe 4 or 5 months, I ended up drawing something like, I don't know, nearly 12 comics, which like I look back on it now and it makes me feel sick even just thinking about the sheer amount of work. But I think they saw pretty quickly that I was a safe pair of hands that could turn solid work around in the right time, and we managed to get some stuff back on track that could have wobbled off, so nothing missed any dates and things. And I think it was just at the right time that I had kind of come in, and they said, "Look, would you be interested in an exclusive contract?" And that way, Marvel kind of can't come back looking for more stuff. And so that was the decision I had to make. And it was like I love Marvel and I love the guys over at Marvel,
I'm sure.
but it wasn't at the time. Wasn't a terribly difficult decision to take.
Both for your hopefully for your not only your reputation but also hopefully for the bank as well.
Yeah, well, I live in Spain now, on my own private island.
Oh my god! I got to edit this out because there are Tormeys in.
Oh yeah, sorry.
I got to edit that part. A lot of bleeping. I live in my own private.
My inbox is going to light up with a whole lot of emails from like, "Oh, I heard you're doing well."
Yeah. Found you. That's amazing. And the contract, the exclusive nature of it lasts for how long? Would you say? Do you know?
It's 2 years. It's
2 years. Oh, so another year left. But
yeah,
I'm sure
I don't have to start selling off any organs or anything
not
just yet.
Not yet.
It should be okay.
You'll be fine. I'm sure they'll be nipping at the bit to renew that contract because you are putting out some stellar stuff, and I'm very happy to hear. Very happy for you.
Thank you very much, sir.
So you've got a chance to work on a lot of characters for both companies, Marvel, DC, and as a proud Irishman yourself, there are some great Irish characters out there, and I was wondering if I could name a few, and you tell me that whether or not you would love to, or maybe not love to work on a book starring these characters, or even with these characters, because I know in DC. With DC, they have Lazarus Planet: Revenge of the Gods coming up, and that first issue came out in March, and I believe that's the Shazam, the Captain Shazam family, and Wonder Woman,
Yeah.
and her cast of characters together. So that you've got a chance to work on some pretty iconic characters. I'm going to
Yes.
toss up some, and you tell me what you think. So let's start with one of my favorites, Kyle Rayner.
Oh yeah. Okay. Coolest looking Green Lantern.
Mm.
I would draw him for the suit.
The
I don't know
traditional
if I.
90s suit.
Yeah, definitely. Because like so Hal Jordan was my Green Lantern.
Okay.
Kyle Rayner came a little bit later than that.
Right.
But yeah, no, just like he's awesome.
Well, I'm gonna have Ron Mars on the show in April, and I think he's the creator of Kyle Rayner. He is the creator of Kyle Rayner, so I'll be happy to tell him.
Ron is a friend of mine. Tell him I say hello.
Oh, I will. Oh, look at that. Oh, everybody in the
We actually went for a pint in Dublin together.
Oh, awesome.
I've bought him many Guinnesses in the Ferryman.
He's a good man. He's a good man.
Yeah, he's great.
I had a chance to meet him at a comic convention in New Jersey, and he was just so down there, so cool. And
yeah, and he tells a great story. Like he must be Irish himself. I think he tells a great story.
If it wasn't I think it's 7 in the morning where I am. We could have started the day with a pint.
Well, like there's I'm about to go in and watch the Irish rugby team, so the beers will be open very soon. Yeah, so
my friend Pat was born in Skibbereen and in Ireland, and we went over his wedding, and I fell in love with Bulmers. I think it was Bulmers. Yeah, Bulmers there. It's Magnus here. It was Bulmers there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's dangerous stuff. That's the stuff you start drinking when you're 16, 17, and you like pass out in the field kind of thing. Like, yeah, it's dangerous. Rocket fuel.
It is fantastic. It's actually we're getting together this weekend to have some. So it should be.
Well, have one for me.
I'll be sure to tell him. He'll be happy to hear it. How about Steve Rogers, Captain America, a little Irish American?
Possibly my number one. If I had the chance, if I had the chance to draw another character, it would probably be, in a perfect world, it would be Steve Rogers.
Very cool.
Yeah, I didn't feel much for him, and I have no shame in saying that a lot of that has to do with his portrayal in the films. Not because I'd like to draw that. It's just, again, like I resonated more with that kind of, and look, to be quite honest, he shares character traits with the way we did John. Like I'll tell you exactly how we characterized it. There was a moment in the second issue of, I think it was issue 8 of Son of Superman, where the first page shows John standing in a flooded city. And I had sketched it out and I'd sent it to Tom. And like, I'm sure you can imagine that in the first few pages, and certainly the first issue or two, you're really still trying to find the character, like before it settles into like, okay, it's muscle memory now. And so you're trying to get the characterization right. And like everything I said to you before about understanding these characters, that's an awful lot harder to do when the character has no pre-existing legacy. If you don't really know who they are, it's hard to find. And there was one drawing that we had done, and I'd sent it to Tom, and he said, "Yes, that's it. Like he looks like a wet Alsatian." And I was like, "Oh, I think I get it now." Yeah. And I look at Captain America, and I'm like, "Yeah, he's like that, only much older." Mm-hmm. Like he just seems like, again, just the weight is on top of him, and he's trying to do the honorable thing all the time, and everybody's working against him. Which, again, speaking as we were before about like, you need drama, needs to be inherent in a character, and the idea that these are protagonists who want something but they can't seem to ever get it is the tragedy, and that's what's so compelling. So that was the long answer of like Captain America any day.
Well, hopefully Marvel is listening to this and they're drawing up a hefty contract that will triple.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'll buy you an island.
And another actually, I think two or three. Eric O'Grady, the irredeemable Ant-Man. I'm not sure of your familiarity with that character. He was pretty much a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent that stole the Ant-Man uniform. Did some pretty despicable things, like spying on Carol Danvers in the shower for a long.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, "Oh, this sounds good," but no, that doesn't sound.
He's irredeemable, but maybe in your
okay.
Yeah.
I think I have the same feeling about Ant-Man as I did about Superman years ago. Is like I I don't get it.
Yeah.
Can you sell him to me, Tom? Like, what is it about him that's like, I don't get it.
Well, he does have excellent qualities, but they are overshadowed by his need to kind of give into his indulgences. He does want to be a hero, but he just kind of doesn't know how to do it.
He undoes himself. Okay.
This is the Eric O'Grady version.
Yeah.
I mean, Hank Pym and Scott Lang are significantly different. They are just set to be heroes. Flawed, but set to be heroes. Eric O'Grady, on the other hand, I can't recall if they've brought him back because no one dies in comic books for too long, but I do think they actually killed him off at one point. He died a hero.
Well, Eric sounds more interesting than Hank and Scott, to be honest.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. Actually,
yeah.
I didn't read much Ant-Man, but I did try to pick up this series when it came out. I did find it interesting, that he's not the good guy. He's just kind of,
You'll have to send me that because I'd like to read that. After this, send me those because that sounds pretty good. I'd like to read that.
It's the same as I think kind of like Superior Spider-Man kind of thing, with Doc Ock taking over. Yeah, that in my opinion. All right, how about Daredevil? Oh, let's put. Can I put Daredevil and Bullseye together because we got Daredevil and Bullseye from Marvel.
Like amazing again, top 10 character. Like, how could you not? Like, right. It's probably come across now, and I don't think I'd realized this until I was saying it out loud, as often happens. But I think, these are all like deeply troubled. Like, they're heroes with the weight of the world on their shoulders. That's obviously like quite appealing to me. I really like that kind of, and in particular, like Daredevil's greatest enemy is himself, which is like the others don't have that as much. Well, also when I say it's himself, like Bullseye is also a pretty terrible enemy. But
internal struggle, that self-doubt, that
which, I mean, I'm Irish, I can resonate with that. Like, that makes sense to me.
But you brought Superman to Ireland in one of the books, correct?
Yes.
Are any of these guys you'd like to, do you want to set these characters in Ireland?
I just don't think we have the scale for it. Like, I think the way it ended up happening was great because Tom and I had discussed what we would like to do, and he was saying like, because it was taking place around the time when Bendix in the comic was using a weather bomb, so he was like affecting everything because climate change was a big theme throughout the story. Tom had said, like, so what kind of massive natural events, like weather events, do you have in Ireland? And I was like, kind of rains a lot. Like, nothing really happens. And so we talked initially about like flooding the place and stuff. And ultimately he settled on just like using the spire, which outside of Ireland you wouldn't know. So it's like this really prominent, completely useless. It's just a needle essentially in the center of the city. It's just very tall. It's like unremarkable. And everybody in the country hates it. Like, it's, well, in the country, certainly in Dublin, like nobody understands why they built it. It's just been there for ages. And so that happens in the same issue. Just as a parenthetical, that happens in the same issue that John comes out to Lois, right? So on Twitter, I had all of these people saying like, this is a wonderful moment. And thank you so much for being as respectful in like how you handled it as you were. But then on all of Irish Twitter, it was like, they got rid of the spire. Like, I was on TV. I was interviewed on the radio a couple of times just because they were like, so you brought Superman to Ireland and then you made him get rid of the spire. And I was like, you're all welcome. So
nothing about Jonathan Kent. Nothing. Just the spire.
Nothing at all.
Yeah.
It was remarkable. Just the sheer two-sided thing of it was really, really funny. But so the problem
they're going to erect a statue to you where the spire once stood.
Yeah, or just like my head on the top of it, probably. But no, I'd have to say, Ireland is just it's very small. Like, and even in our city, like, it's quite small. I think you'd struggle maybe you could probably set a couple of pages there, but I don't think you could. It just doesn't have the. I mean, look, Hell's Kitchen is really small as well, so like I understand, but it's just it's. I don't know. I would struggle to visualize it, but maybe that's just because I'm from there. Like, Tom didn't seem to have an issue kind of doing that, and it worked so well. But yeah, I don't know. I would struggle to see this because I think these characters need to function at scale, you know. Sure. And Ireland's just quite small. Yeah.
Well, how about another famous Irish hero, I'll say. I am so woefully naive when it comes to X-Men, but Banshee
So
is.
so I don't know. Is he Scottish or is he Irish?
I'm under the impression that he's Irish, but the truth is actually I put Banshee on my list and I took Black Canary off because Black Canary I'm way more familiar with, and was
And she's
shocked.
Irish.
I was shocked to find out that she's listed as an Irish hero. I was because it's not such a, like, for example, a character like Matt Murdock and clearly Bullseye, where
Yeah.
their Irish heritage is so relevant to who they are.
Yes, of course.
But you don't get that really with Black Canary. At least that's my.
No, although interestingly enough, and I'm glad it's not the opposite way around, but I mean the fact that her power is to scream, which is literally what a banshee is, like in Irish folklore,
Yeah,
the
that's right.
banshee is it's a woman who screams. So like I guess I could see it, but that's quite shocking. But I don't know because anytime you go back and read any of the X-Men stuff, I feel like Banshee is kind of coded as quite he's quite Scottish, and he's always on like that Muir Island, you know, with Moira McTaggart. So I don't know. And it's funny because I was listening to a podcast recently, and they were going back over some of the X-Men stuff, and they were talking about. Well, actually, one of the things they were talking about was how funny it is that he works on the page in a comic, but when you put him in a film or something, it's just a man just screaming. Like, so you just have to watch this man. It's quite weird. Like, so, but yeah, so I would have to say, and I feel like I might get my passport revoked, but I don't know where he's from.
I
feel like I should.
I can see what they're saying about Banshee not really being kind of fit for the silver screen. I think a lot of people are like, oh, I can't wait to see this character on the movies. I'm like, well, I don't know. I'm okay.
I don't know. Just a man screaming all the time. It's like, I don't know. I don't think I'd like to see that in real life.
Must be really uneventful to film, and you're just standing there with your mouth agape, you know, just adding all the special effects later.
That's the majority of Irish cinema, Tom, in fairness.
The last one on the list,
sure.
I believe half Hispanic, half Irish, but about to become big. I mean, big now in the comic industry, but in mainstream is Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 2099.
Yeah. So the thing is, so here, back to the point I made earlier, I love Spider-Man. I absolutely love Spider-Man. And Spider-Man 2099, of all of the 2099 other comics, like they never really kind of worked for me. I was obsessed with just the way Rick Leonardi drew Miguel O'Hara as Spider-Man. That is a Spider-Man that I find insanely difficult to draw. And maybe it's because it's too close. Yeah, I don't know what it is. Like, I just can't seem to get it right. Or at least I can't make it look the way it looks in my head, you know? And so I love that character. And I really like, it's not often that you get that kind of childish excitement of seeing something. And when I saw him turn up in the trailer for the next Spider-Verse movie, I really was like, oh man, I flipped out. Like,
yeah, it's difficult. You know, I didn't because I nowhere, but every child in the world loves to draw their favorite superheroes, and always the emphasis is on that logo. I want to make sure I draw that S logo.
Yeah,
and your logo blindness is that?
Part of
right. Your logo is that part because the 2099 logo on his shirt.
Oh, it's badass and it's huge. Yeah, no, otherwise I'm just drawing a dude in a blue morph suit. Like, it just wouldn't work at all. But just the whole thing. But like even the claws on his fingers and like the really long kind of like Batman spikes on his. That landed just at. I think that was 13-year-old Cian, and that might have been one of the coolest things I'd ever seen. And it was like, I love that guy. I would say, but just to answer the core question, that's the one character that I would, beyond Captain America, that I would love the most, but I would never say yes to because I just wouldn't be able to do it.
That's a great answer. It's a very sincere answer. Yes, I would love to, but hard pass on. No, I don't want to.
I'd have to say no. Yeah, I'd screw it up. I wouldn't be. And every day of that job would be a nightmare. Oh God.
And do you get to draw any of your kind of dream? Because I know with Lazarus Planet, Revenge of the Gods, you're taking on characters that you're not really. Yeah, I don't think I've seen you delve too much into these characters in the past. So, what was it like to do you like to draw like a Shazam, Billy Batson, Wonder Woman, or any of the other Greek gods?
Yeah, so I didn't know these characters. Well, obviously I know Wonder Woman. Shazam, I didn't really know too much either. But that's also one of the reasons why this job, and certainly working for DC, has been so gratifying, because you're often handed something and it's like some of the value and some of the enjoyment comes out of having to solve this on the fly. So you have to try, and sometimes I do worry like maybe I haven't quite got the acting right of one particular character because I don't really know them.
Mhm.
But one of the things, again, that has been fun about drawing somebody like Shazam is, getting Billy right, but then also making him feel like Billy when he's Shazam. So he still has to have some kind of like a childish thing to him. So drawing that has been drawing him has been amazing. Drawing Wonder Woman, but to be honest, the highlight so far is drawing Yara Flor. She's one of the most interesting new characters I've seen. She's the Brazilian Wonder Woman, and
Oh
she
yes, of
features
course.
in this.
Right.
Yeah, so drawing her has been really fun as well. That was a surprise. And drawing some of the villains and things, the gods has been. I'm drawing some of Caitlin Yarsky's characters. There's a whole suite of these guys that I've never seen before, so it's been kind of it's been a challenge.
Yeah, I bet.
Which to be, I would wait. The higher the challenge, the more enjoyable the job, just because yeah, like every page is asking you to do something that you haven't done before, which is great.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I'm really looking forward to that book. I think the Lazarus Planet concept is really interesting, and
yeah,
I'm definitely interested to see where DC is going with this. I mean, right out of one big event into another, uh,
yeah.
but it's still pretty cool, and I'm definitely curious. Are there any other books that you're working on, or any appearances that you're making in the upcoming future that we can be privy to?
Signed for my next project yesterday,
Oh wow!
and I can't tell you anything yet, but I will come back and
Oh,
talk to you
just wait.
about it because I am like hyper excited.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
Yeah.
If
So
you're excited about it, and we're talking about you handling some of DC's biggest characters, so if you're excited about this, then I guarantee you we are
it
too.
was one of those ones where I came in and I was like, oh my god, what an amazing idea! And yeah, so I was like, where do I sign? So yeah,
Right.
I'm really excited. Yeah,
How
but I
about
can't say
now, I know I understand completely. I understand. Uh,
anything.
there are people just off camera watching. Um, I can see a hand moving in your room right there. They're there. Um,
Sorry, yeah.
um, do you? I know you've come to the United States before for different conventions, as you mentioned. You
Yep.
hit the conventions in Ireland as well. Are there any plans to either comic book shops where you are in Spain, bleeped out later for your family, and any other appearances that you may be making in the upcoming future?
So I will have one basically when this show comes out.
Okay.
So that's probably gone. But I'm going to do my best to make it to New York this year because I've only ever gone as a fan before. And at this point, I'd like to go and meet some of the people who've been reading Superman. Like I'd like to talk to these people because it's so wonderful to work with all of these characters. But I am quite removed from it. And while they do have tremendous cultural resonance here, it's not the same as being in the States. Like I'd really want to go and talk to the main consumers of these things because like they're
Yeah.
important to me and I know that they're important to people. And one of my friends, Iban Cuello, he's a Marvel artist. He was saying that he didn't realize what the resonance of some of these books has until you get stateside. And at this point now, I haven't done a show over there just with the way the pandemic and stuff has worked out timing wise. So I would love to come back now and see if I can table it in New York.
Well, you'll have to leave your island in Spain
I
to come
know,
to,
I know.
an
Have
island.
to
You have to
have
come
to
to an
bring the
island.
jet up out of the basketball court and make my way over.
I knew it. I knew that's where you were. I knew it. X-Men, man.
So yeah,
So you leave your island in Spain, you come to your island in New York, and we'd be happy to see you at New York Comic Con. That would be a
I'll
lot of
let you
fun.
know. I'll let you know if I manage to work that out. I'll let you know straight away.
That would be awesome. Keen Tormey, on behalf of comic book fans everywhere, and on behalf of Tormeys everywhere, congratulations on all your success. I can't wait to see your new projects. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me. You are an extremely kind man, and an immensely talented artist, and your future is bright. And if DC, and they do, they know what they're doing over there. They're signing you ad infinitum. You're going forever. They're gonna sign you forever. Yeah,
Thank you very much, Tom.
Thank you, man. Thanks for taking the time, everybody. This is Cian Tormey. I'm Tom Tormey. This was Cosmic Comic Nation. Thanks for checking us out. Thanks for being here. Be well and stay safe, everybody.